Hello and welcome to another episode of the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review Podcast. This is episode 80. On this show, we showcase gun reviews, gear, and anything else a gun enthusiast may be looking for. We strive to evaluate products from an unbiased and honest perspective. I'm your host, Ryan Cross from the Firearms Radio Network, your source for broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. And with me today, I have TJ. Wasn't able to get anyone else to join us. I think I might have hurt Chad's feelings on the last show talking, so I might have hurt his feelings, but that's okay. So I'm guessing we talked earlier. You said you didn't do too much in guns this week, TJ.
No, nothing here.
Did you
Other
carry
than
it
the
all?
usual. Yeah, that's the usual. That kind of gets old hearing. So.
Oh. Okay. Well, yeah, I did some reloading, and then I did some rock chuck shooting. I guess technically they're marmots with the 22-250 out in the farmlands around here. Got a couple really long shots, like between 300 and 700 yards. So they were really hard to track through a 14 power scope, especially with the sun came out and the all the rocks started to put out like a mirage. So it was like really almost impossible, but that's all I did. So
pretty cool though. It's kind of like a groundhog kind of creature.
yeah. You know, they can get pretty fat. You know, they like going out on the rocks to sun themselves in the morning, and then if it gets too hot, like in the high 50s, 60s, they typically hide underneath the rocks and stay in the shade. But they're really fun to shoot. You know, you gotta really have good communication with somebody who's spotting for you. Like, oh, I got one. You know, it's okay. Look at the pyramid rock. You guys have to like agree on what certain like landmarks are on the rock face. You know, look at the pyramid rock. Now go diagonal from that at 10:30, and until you can find it yourself. But it was pretty fun. Anyway, let's get right into the announcements. We do have a pretty good show for you guys today as far as products. So it's the announcements. Guests are always welcome on the show. Kind of like how last episode 79, Simon got on the show, Mr. Tony Simon, and that was really interesting to hear his input. So if you want to join the show, just email me, cross@firearmsradio.tv, and we can get that set up for you. Other news, the Gunstruction giveaway. I'm announcing the winners today. So probably should have given these away a while ago, because SHOT Show 15 is like so passe right now. But these are any Gunstruction little promo kits. So you get this sweet patch that says low speed, high drag, little Instagram patch that glows in the dark, a polymer dust cover that's really nice, and you also get a promo code to download the Gunstruction app on your iPhone for free. It's like a $2 app. So I got two of these guys, and the winners, I only have their iTunes usernames, so they're going to have to hear this or check it out on the Facebook page and then somehow contact me either by cross@firearmsradio.tv, podcast@firearmsinsider.tv, or just message the Facebook page, Firearms Insider. So the winners are usernames RJ Spills and James1078. So you two have to email me. If you don't get back to me like in a week, I'm going to have to pick somebody else. Being that there was only 3 iTunes reviews during the length of this podcast, someone's going to have to get back to me, or else I'm going to have to give it to Harry Ballsack, who's the other user. So anyway, that's that. Let's get right into the new product spotlight. Yes, I did say Harry Ballsack. That is the name of an iTunes user that left us a pretty good review. Just has a somewhat innuendo of a username, so I apologize if that offended you. So anyway, the first product we're going to be talking about this week is something that a lot of people are either hyped up for, or they kind of know a little bit more about the platform, and so they're a little skeptical. So Ruger, our big old friends down at Ruger in Arizona. They're pumping out the Mini 14. They call it the Tactical in 300 blackout. So that happened. It's interesting. I mean, when I first saw it, I got really excited, but then I remembered how much Mini 14 magazines cost and that they don't accept like AR-15 magazines readily. So then I got really disappointed.
Yeah, I thought you'd be pretty excited because I know you're a 300 blackout guy, and then I'm not too very excited about
Well,
it.
I'm struggling with the caliber as is. I really miss my pistol that I had,
Uh-huh.
because it was frankly more accurate than the Remington bolt action that I've been messing with lately. But it was nowhere near as quiet as what I have now, so I just had to work up reloads and make it work. But anyway, if you're into 300 blackout and you want a Mini 14, or you've been kind of waiting to get a Mini 14 for a while, this might be your chance to get a hold of one.
Yeah. So
Go
looks
ahead.
like it's just kind of their tactical model, which is just kind of like their standard black composite stock with a threaded barrel and flash hider. Is there anything else that stands out on the tactical model?
Let's see. If you go on to features, it's got the Garand style action, obviously, breech bolt locking system, fixed piston gas system, and self-cleaning moving gas cylinder. I've never fired a Mini 14, so I am kind of curious. People say that they've had accuracy issues in the past. I don't know if they have moved past that or not.
Yeah, I've heard the same criticism, kind of saying that. Well, especially now, the Mini 14 used to be like I guess, cheaper alternative to a AR-15, but now it seems like you can get ARs for, you can get a Smith & Wesson AR-15 for under $650. So that's kind of where I'm a little confused on where this stands in the market, is kind of why it needs to be there. It's a little, you can get an AR, you can build your own AR in 300 blackout for less than this, I would imagine. And another kind of thing that kind of struck me is they make their mini, what is it, their Mini 30 in 7.62 by 39. So it almost seems like the 300 blackout's not as desirable in this platform, I guess. Like, to me, it just doesn't seem like the benefits of a 300 blackout in an AR, you don't get those same benefits in this platform.
Right. I don't know enough about the gas system to know that if you put a suppressor on this, is it quieter than an AR? I mean, it's still gas operated, so I imagine it would make a very unique sound when firing subsonics and it cycling.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they have an adjustable gas system, because they've got to know that the 300 blackout is pretty popular for suppression. So I wonder if they have an adjustable gas system to compensate for that. That'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah,
but they don't mention it, so it's kind of.
Yeah, I'm skeptical because I'm not. That's kind of important information. You don't just jump into it. It's got integral scope mounts, and it's got a sighting system already on there. It's got like a ghost ring rear aperture and a non-glare post front sight.
Something interesting they did is their magazines are marked 300 blackout. I'm not sure if that's just because they're identical to the 223 magazines, or if there is something different. Maybe they just wanted to visibly mark it, so that way if you have two of them sitting by side, you don't put it in the wrong gun or something like that.
That's exactly the reason why, because they wanted to put some indication on the magazine so that if you had another magazine loaded up with 223, you wouldn't put it in your 300 blackout rifle, and vice versa.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you could still take this magazine that's labeled 300 AAC blackout, put a 223 in there, and still have a problem in this gun. Or you could just load 223 and use it in a regular M14 in the right caliber chambering. But I don't see anything about the thread pitch. I'm assuming that it's 5/8 by, was it 28?
I'm not sure on the 300.
Yeah, it's interesting because 300 blackout is 30 caliber, so you think this would be called the Mini 30 tactical rifle, but so the barrel is 16.12 inches. It's made out of alloy steel. It weighs 6 3/4 pounds. It's got a blued finish. The overall length is 36 1/4 inches. The length of pole is 13 inches. Capacity of 20 rounds in the magazine, and a twist rate of 1 in 7. So for your 300 blackout, that should be a fast enough twist to shoot the heavier bullets, which kind of indicates that they were leaning toward subsonic use.
That's interesting. One thing I just kind of noticed, just looking at the different models, it seems to have a little heavier barrel than the other Mini 14s. That might just be because it's not a 22 cal, it's a 30 cal, so I guess they had to make it a little bit thicker for the pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, if this was made from the factory, readily able to accept, AR-15 magazines, I guess you can do some modification for it to do that. I haven't seen it done very much. That would have been really nice because, everyone loves, PMags and AR-15 magazines, and nobody wants to go out and buy proprietary magazines that look identical, but, just won't fit in their rifle. Yeah, I don't know. If they came out with, some of their other rifles that I've kind of been looking forward to in 300 blackout, I wasn't really thinking M14. Mini 14. Sorry. I was kind of thinking their Gunsight Scout. But again, that is a much heavier rifle, and so it would kind of almost be a little bit overbearing for the caliber.
Yeah, well, they've got a Scout in 223 as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Or 5.56.
Yeah,
so
they do.
It seems like that would be a pretty good platform for that. Put that bolt action, like you said, it is quieter. And then they've got their 2 AR lines that they could also expand into 300. So it's just a little odd why they went with the Mini first.
Yeah, hopefully I don't think it's going to be well received, and I hope that the lack of these flying off the shelf doesn't keep them from releasing other rifles in 300 blackout. I'm by no means drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm having a hard time with the rifle I have, and I'm not super pleased with it. It's just kind of something to tinker with. So don't just write Ryan as the 300 blackout Kool-Aid drinking guy. That's definitely not me.
That's where I was thinking. That's why I thought you even mentioned it.
No. I got a lot of. There's a lot of listeners that keep asking me about it. Just because it's the new thing on the block and it's getting a lot of attention right now. So I'm interested to see like what some of our listeners have to say about this. Like Arturo, what do you think about this guy? Is it something that's going to be up your alley? Is this the Mini 14? What do you know if it's legal in states that have like certain restrictions, or is it pretty much
I would imagine
on the same list as the AR-15?
I would imagine in most states, being that it's got the pistol grip, it's got the options for 5 and a 10 round magazine. You don't have to worry about the having the pistol grip rather than the traditional stock. But the problem with that with the 300 version is that it's got a threaded barrel, which could be a no in some states, because I know like New Jersey, I believe you can't have a threaded barrel on a semi-auto or something along those lines. I forget all those crazy states, but their standard model should be 50 state legal. It's got the standard stock 5 10-round magazines, no threaded barrel. What else is a no? I'm not sure.
The fact that it's black is probably a no in California.
Yeah, probably.
So possibly if you wanted to get into 300 blackout, but you were restricted from your state of residence from getting one in an AR-15 platform, and you've got no interest in getting one in a bolt action platform, maybe this is up your alley. I'm just throwing that out there.
And I'm not entirely sure I'm not entirely sure, but I think in California you can have detachable magazines if you don't have those other features. So maybe that's a benefit.
Yeah, perhaps. I will never know because I will never be a resident of California.
Not important to us. Huh?
Nope, nope. So we forgot to mention the MSRP on that guy. It's $1,019 is the MSRP. So straight price, you're looking under $1,000. Kind of, it's a little overpriced considering you can build a 300 blackout or buy a 300 blackout AR for less money. So that's what a lot of guys are kind of, bulking about. But, all Rugers, all their other Mini 14s are MSRP'd the same for 1,019, except for there's one 5.56 that's 1,099.
Yeah, their tacticals are that price. I think their regular ranch are a little cheaper, not much cheaper, right at about 1,000.
Yeah.
So let's see. Just before we move on real quick, I'm gonna see if what I can find the going price of like a tactical model is
I think
going.
the ranch ones are sexier anyway.
Yeah, the wood.
Yeah.
They have that kind of grand-esque look.
Exactly.
Let's see. Impact Guns has a regular, not the 300 blackout, but 5.56 tactical for $769. So I imagine you could probably build a good 300 for that.
Yeah, there you go. So I got the links for that in the show notes. Moving on, we've got something from Apex. They are making a pretty cool trigger for the Smith & Wesson M&P. Sorry for the Shield owners, but they are not included in this product release. So this is actually a Brownells exclusive, which is really cool. It's a flat-faced forward set trigger, so it won't work on the Shields. You taking a look at this?
I don't have an M&P, so I haven't taken too much of a look, but I've heard good things about the Apex triggers and stuff for the M&Ps. So imagine, I'm not sure what the flat trigger is supposed to accomplish.
The flat trigger is supposed to give you kind of more of a straight back pull as opposed to a curved shoe. So it's meant more for competition shooting or just target shooting.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So it kind of gives you a little bit similar trigger travel than as a 1911. So basically, I mean, Apex has their existing triggers out, so this does a lot of the same, but now it's got the flat face, which is kind of high speed, low drag looking. There's a lot of guys on the competition circuit who are using M&Ps as opposed to Glocks, so it's nice to see that aftermarket manufacturers are starting to, really favor M&Ps or make sure that M&Ps have just as much aftermarket availability and customizability as the Glocks do. And Apex has always been great for that. I mean, I've got an Apex trigger in my M&P. So this trigger is not recommended for duty carry applications because it does lighten the trigger pull between 3 and 4 pounds. With a smooth uptake and reset. So I'm assuming that, just for the sake of, self-defense, if you're going to shoot somebody in a defensive scenario, you'd probably want to stick with a factory trigger or maybe like their duty trigger set, which is a little bit more, I guess, safer or more in tune for not getting rapid shots on paper, against the timer versus, trying to make an accurate shot on somebody and not hit any bystanders. So it's got a center-mounted pivoting safety, which maintains the factory safety that M&Ps have. I really could care less about that thing, but at least now it's not like a hinge trigger like the factory M&P trigger is kind of hinged in the middle, which is kind of takes a little bit to get used to.
Yeah, I think maybe they. I hear a lot of people complain about that hinge trigger, so I think maybe Apex tried to fix that, and rather than making it a solid trigger, because you'd hate to, for something to happen and some lawyers say that you removed a safety. So they didn't remove a safety; they just made it function better. So I imagine that's probably
Yeah.
kind of where they went with it, which is
Yeah, the
good.
way they have that designed, you almost don't notice it. It's almost like similar to the AccuTrigger, just kind of a light paddle that goes flush with the trigger face when you depress it. Supposedly easy to install. It does require the use of a sear housing block that's designed for a large size sear and plunger spring. So that'll be like M&P pistols at like June 2011 and newer. So they have the flat. They're both painted red, but you can get one in black too. You can get the forward set sear and trigger kit for $175 on Brownells, or you can get just the forward set trigger for $79.95, $80. So those are both through Brownells exclusively. I think that if you are in a three gunning or IPSC or other competitive shooting sport, and you like to use M&Ps and you don't already have an aftermarket trigger, you might want to take a look at this. So I got the link for that in the show notes as well. The next product we're going to be talking about today is the Henry Maresleg pistol, which isn't exactly new, but for 2015, they released one in 22 Magnum. So I just wanted to kind of catch you guys up on what they offer. Henry released a bunch of new stuff this year, and I just thought the Maresleg would have been cool to talk about. So let's see. The 22 Magnum, the model number is H001MML, 22 mag, capacity of 8 rounds. MSRP is $450. The big thing with the Maresleg is Steve McQueen liked to use them in that television program, so it's kind of got like a little cult fan following. It is a pistol. It pretty much looks like a lever action rifle that had the stock kind of cut down in half, and it's got a shorter barrel on there.
Yeah, these
go ahead.
things are pretty neat. Like you said, it looks just like a rifle with a little bitty stock, kind of, even though it's probably way too short to even shoulder it, even if you could legally, But I like these. They're pretty cool looking, like you said. They just kind of have that cool factor, I guess. And a friend of mine has the Marlin version, I believe, of the what are they? No, the Rossi. I think he has the Ranch Hand in 44, and that thing's pretty crazy to shoot. But I imagine that 22 Magnum's probably pretty neat. Now, could be a good little, if you're going backpacking or something like that, you can strap that to the side of your backpack and use that without having to have a full-size rifle. It might be a pretty good use for it. May or may not be. So.
Yeah, and kind of a nice little truck gun too.
Yeah.
So they also have the Maresleg and 22 long rifle. It also takes shorts and 22 long, as well as a 45 Colt, 44 mag, and 357 Magnum chamber rings. They got blued with a walnut stock and forend, and they have brass as well. The brass is kind of neat.
Yeah, those brass receivers. Everything else is blue, but the receiver is brass. Those are pretty slick. I like the looks.
Yeah. So, like all Henry rifles, they have a select handcrafted American walnut stock that's cut to the exact specification of the gun used on the television series. And of course, it has the iconic enlarged loop lever, which is kind of like a regular loop lever, but it almost looks like it's been bent outwards so that you've got more clearance with your cocking hand. So you too can be like Steve McQueen and take down the bad guys, or in this case, the bad squirrels. So if you guys want to check that out, go to henryrifles.com and look under rifles and just look at the Maresleg. And check out all the other rifles they got new for 2015. I'll probably talk about them in another show. Just because I'm feeling kind of a niche for a lever action in my collection. Actually, I know I don't have the budget for it right now, but I'm looking. I'm kind of interested in it.
Yeah, I've been wanting a 16-inch 357 lever action Well,
Can
lately.
those shoot 38s too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. All right. So on to the main topic. So I've got a review today. TJ did not bring one, so it should help keep this episode nice and brisk for you guys. So I want to talk to you about scope rings and some pretty kind of unique scope rings that I picked up for a build, a long range precision bolt action rifle build that I've been doing. So if you've been in the market for rings, you've looked at the price points. You've got the Warrens, which are probably about like 40 or 50 bucks, depending on which Warrens you get. And they're okay. I mean, they're better than, going to Walmart and just getting like the Weaver sets or whatnot. You really want to get rings that are machined well. They're not just pumping them out in mass production. You want rings that are machined with tight tolerances, and you want to make sure that when you get your scope all zeroed and everything's all tightened down, that it's going to hold zero and not loosen up on you or anything like that. So finding nice quality rings is kind of a big deal. You can spend $1,000 to $2,000 on a rifle scope, and $1,000 to $1,500 on a gun. And if you don't have good rings, those two aren't going to do you a whole lot of good. So it's kind of an important factor that some people might be tempted to cheap out on. Don't do it. I mean, you can, but I don't recommend it. Don't get the NC Star tactical rings. You want to definitely invest in something that you only have to buy once, and it's going to last you a lifetime, and also give you a better performance. Because if you're shooting past 300 yards, 400 yards, and group size matters, spend the extra money on good sets of rings. So that's my intro leading up to these rings. These are the Extreme Hardcore Gear is the name of the company. Force Recon Tactical Rings. That's a really big mouthful. So I'm just going to call these Force Recon rings from on out, because that's a really long name. So they've got these rings available in a couple different configurations, but these ones in particular are unique because they have a built-in level. So like it's got a built-in bubble machined into the rear scope ring, and that'll tell you whether your scope, your action, and your bore are perpendicular with the ground. And that matters because if you're adjusting for windage and elevation at longer ranges, if your scope's not perpendicular with your bore in the ground, you're not going to be tracking exactly up and down, left and right like you think. You're going to be moving kind of more of a diagonal direction because your bore line is and your scope line is going to be tilted one way or the other. So this is, a lot of guys like to get bubbles and you can get like the Vortex bubble or some of the, like Night Force, and fasten those to your scope tube. And that's one way to do it. They're kind of bulky. They snag if you're got it on somewhat of a hunting rifle. And they cost extra money too. They can be somewhere between 30 and 50 bucks or more. So these actually incorporate the bubble into the ring, which is something unique that I haven't seen very much. The price point for these, it's $179.95 MSRP. You can get them retail for $169.99. And I know you might be thinking that's too much money for rings, but I'm telling you it's not. It's really important, and these are really high quality rings, and not just the novelty of having that bubble on there. They make rings without the bubble and have the same quality of machining and the extra design built into the machining of these that make them better than just your standard, $40, $50 rings you can get down at the local store. So actually, let me grab my rifle behind me. So this is a 300 wow, I was gonna say blackout. Ha, yeah, right. This is a 300 Win Mag Remington 700 long range. So right now I've got the Vortex 4-16 Viper on there, mounted in these rings. So they are 30 millimeter. They do make these rings for, let me see. They got 30 millimeter as well as 34 millimeter. And it uses 6 cap screws and then 2 clamp screws. And then one nice thing about these is that there's 2 precision steel dowel pins that are kind of pressed into the base. And so the clamp side of the mount that clamps into your rail actually rides on those steel dowels. So instead of like your standard scope rings that just have a clamp that you just tighten down, and the tighter you get it eventually, clamps down on the rings. But if, your rings are marred in any, or I'm sorry, your rails marred in any way, they kind of clamps down, and it's not like a concentric and even clamping force. So it's kind of nice that this actually has 2 little guide rods, those dowels that it sits on. So when you tighten the rings, it's, tightening correctly. That's really nice. Other things that make this really, really advantageous is that, obviously when I put it on, I noticed that there was a lot less play forward and aft on the Picatinny rail before I fully torqued it down. When I usually put rings on the rail, I can kind of move it back and forth, probably like an 1/8 of an inch. There was almost no wiggle room. So the cross bolts are a little bit wider, so they fit really well in that Picatinny rail slot. The 6 Torx bolts on the top make it really nice for just getting a nice even clamping force. The top rings are slotted instead of solid, so the top halves of the rings have those 3 slots in them. And that kind of helps for when you're tightening down on your scope, that it's not going to leave as much of an indentation into your scope's tube, as opposed to like a solid top cap. I think that's the technical term for it. And the rings and caps are radiused on all the sides to eliminate any marring or sharp contact points with clothing or your other gear. So I believe that's, let's see here. I had that written down as far as the degree of that, that honing down. But anyway, the ring bore diameter on both of them have tolerances within 1/1000th of an inch. And that's something that you're just not going to find in other rings that cost under $100. That's why the Vortex rings, Night Force rings, and the more expensive rings are what they cost, because first of all, they're made out of a nice billet of aircraft aluminum, and then second of all, there's extra time put into the machining to make sure that the tolerances are as tight as possible. So it's nice that they're definitely matched within 1/1000th or 2/1000th of an inch. They are coated with a black anodizing mil-spec Type 3 hard coat. Yeah, I just really like these scope rings. So the downside to these that some people don't like is that the bubble location, you can see the pictures in the review on the firearmsinsider.tv website, that that bubble is close to the main body of that rear scope ring. So in low light situations, it's got like a nice housing around it. So the light might not be able to gather enough to where you can see your bubble exactly. So it's not as clearly visible as if you had like an external bubble ring mounted on your tube way up on top. But I did get this I like that the compactness of the design would facilitate for like hunting, walking through the brush and not having a big old scope level hanging off your side and jabbing into your back if you got it slinged, or catching on branches and things like that. So let me just go through the 8 key points. The claim to fame is the Force Recon tactical rings feature a built-in leveled housing or level housed into the rear scope ring, assuring a perfect parallel, which is essential for long-range shooting. So obviously the target market is long-range rifle shooters, bolt-action, AR-15, AR-10, FN, other long-range applications that just have a rail for mounting optics mounts. Already went through some of the features and benefits as far as the materials and things like that. The clamp screws are made out of US 840. The 2 clamp screws or cross bolts are made out of USA 1024 grade 8. I'm assuming that's, I don't know if that's steel or I'm assuming it's steel. And the 2 steel dowels are 0.125 precision stainless steel. Other aesthetic options, obviously it's only in black, 30 and 34 millimeter diameter, and then you can also get the rings that do not have the level on them. What others are saying, so there's a blog, the Rock Slide blog, and they did some field testing with these rings. They said, while field testing, we found the bubble easy enough to see while sighting through the scope. Under very low light conditions, it took a little more effort to focus on the reference lines, most likely because the level isn't exposed to any light from the top or bottom of the ring. At any rate, it didn't interfere with the ability to make accurate long-range shots at last light. In conclusion, if you're looking for a set of very high-quality rings for your long-range rig, you owe it to yourself to check these out. The price point is comparable to other quality rings that require the additional purchase of a add-on bubble level. You can purchase the Force Recon Tactical Scope rings at Extreme Hardcore Gear. Then I found another review on Sniper's Hide. It said, I mounted each ring on my Badger scope rail and then did an alignment check with a 34 millimeter lapping bar. Then I checked the alignment with a set of scope alignment bars, and they were dead on. The rings mounted rock solid and looked great. The level is calibrated perfect, and there is no issues with these rings. These rings are of excellent quality, and I would highly recommend these for any tactical build. I like the fact that they are the lowest available for a 34 millimeter scope. At a 0.9 inch height, they put my eye right on the aligned with the scope on a Macmillan A5 stock. So you can get them on Brownells as well as Amazon, and I have the affiliate links right there. Actually, I think scratch that; those are incorrect. So do not click on those links. In fact, they will be gone by the time you hear this. But you can go to Extreme Hardcore Gear and buy them straight from their website. Let's see here. So that's MSRP retail. That's right. Midway USA has these rings. So they have them for the lower price of $169.99. They have the lows and the mediums. And they have the 34 millimeter as well. They are out of stock as I check right now, expected back the 3rd of next month, so May. So my rating, I gave these an 8.5. I think that they're really a great design and concept and definitely worth the money. And I really appreciate the kind of the confidence that they give when you put this on your build. It's taking away mechanical variables. If you make a bad shot or a bad group one day, if you've got good solid rings and a good scope and a good rifle that's, bedded and free floated, you can only blame yourself. So by getting good rings, you kind of can't blame the rings at that point. So that's kind of nice. The only cons is, I don't like the fact that the cross bolts are the clamp screws, and there's a lot of other people that don't like that too. Some people like clamp screws that are not the cross bolts, or if there's some kind of insert that acts as the cross bolt, and then the clamps are separate. And then just that bubble housing, there's no opening on the top and bottom to light in, so you're only getting light from the forward and rear. So That's kind of what helps it, or causes it to be difficult to clearly read at some points during the day. And I used a 5/32 Allen wrench to tighten down those cross bolts. You got any questions or comments?
No, I'm not too familiar with any of the, the more technical scope stuff, so I'm just going to keep quiet and learn.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not an expert by any means. I'm a total novice, but my buddy had a pair of these rings and I thought they were really trick. I contacted them and they don't have any kind of T&E program, but just based on my friend's personal testimony saying, oh yeah, you really need to get these rings, they're really good, I thought I'd go ahead and invest in them. I'm kind of building this rifle for my dad anyway, so I wanted to make sure that it had a couple extra bells and whistles that kind of be worth it for him. You know, some people have like scope rails that have a bubble in the back too. That might be easier for you to see. Yeah, it's just up to you. And of course, you can reverse the ring if you're a lefty and you want the bubble to be hanging on the right side of the scope as opposed to the left side. So anyway, check out those rings, man. They're really cool. Extremehardcoregear.com. And there's only two E's in extreme, so they start it with an X. So extremehardcoregear.com. And then also check out my review on the Firearms Insider. So next we're going to get right into the Tech Gadget app. I was lazy this week and I just picked a new red dot, but that is a tech gadget. It uses batteries, so it qualifies.
Oh, we all know why you picked this, Ryan.
Because it's Vortex?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly. So this is new for 2015. Vortex has put this thing out. They have, what do they call the other one? I'm failing as a fanboy here.
The Strike Fire?
No, the Razor, I think.
I think the Razor is their full-size scope.
Nope. Well, they do have a Viper. Yeah, but no, the Razor is another micro red dot that they have.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know they had that one.
Yeah. So it mounts via a Picatinny mount. They have a 3 MOA and a 6 MOA version. The Venom red dot is kind of a little bit different. It's got a 3 MOA dot, and it mounts via, let's see here.
It looks like it's got kind of like a mounting plate, like some of like the RMR and stuff like that, where you can just kind of screw it directly on top. I assume they did that for slide mounting to make it easier to mount on a slide without having to have a Picatinny mount. But it also comes standard with a, I guess, removable Picatinny mount, so you could mount it on an AR or anything really.
Yep. Thank you for catching that for me.
No problem.
Uses a CR1632 battery. So let's see here. It's obviously it's 1x magnification, parallax free, as all micro red dot sights are. The length is 1.9 inches. The weight is 1.1 ounces. The max windage adjustment is 100 MOA. The max elevation adjustment is 130 MOA. And the graduation for those adjustments is 1 MOA. So if you need more adjustment than that, you're doing something wrong. But this is I really like how on the side of it, it's got an up and down brightness settings. So I'm assuming that is what that is.
Yeah. That's how you can turn it to the brightness up and down. And I also believe there's a ambient light sensor in the front. Like, I guess if you have it mounted on a gun, it'd be the barrel end of the optic. So didn't quite see it as one of the features, but I think that would lead me to believe that it has an adjustable, self-adjusting brightness.
Yeah, we do know that it has a 14-hour auto shut-off feature to maximize battery life. So at the highest setting, you get 150 hours. At the lower setting, you can have up to 30,000 hours of runtime.
Yeah, another, I guess, important point is that without the Picatinny mount, this thing only weighs 1.1 ounces. So if you do put it on a handgun, you're not adding anything really. And with the Picatinny mount, you're only adding half of an ounce to add that to it. So it's a very light, compact package.
Yep. And it's waterproof. There's O-rings to seal, O-ring seals to prevent moisture, dust, and debris from penetrating inside the sight for reliable performance. That's one big thing that's been preventing me from spending a lot of money on like a micro red dot. Is I've gone through the cheap ones, and it just seems like there's no way to prevent moisture from getting inside. I just been buying the cheap ones, I guess. So I would be willing to get one of these, just because it has that feature in them, as well as it's built to withstand recoil and impact. It's got a hard anodized finish. That's kind of a low glare matte. It does have an ultra hard scratch resistant coating to protect the exterior lens from scratches, oil, and dirt. The kind of window is almost a football shape without the points, so it's not like a square. It's kind of a nice almond shaped window for that 3 MOA dot.
It's a very good description. Almond right there.
Almond, yeah. Well, I was thinking that kind of resembled an eye, and then I thought, some people have almond eyes, so there you go.
There you go.
So, yeah, so the MSRP is $329, so expect street prices to be well under $300, or just at, $299, something like that.
Actually, I saw a minute ago, I was just kind of browsing. I saw it for sale at, where was it at? Primary Arms for $229, so a whole $100 off basically. And obviously it says out of stock right now, but that's their price they have on here.
Yeah, they're not shipping till summer of this year, so
right.
Got to give it another couple months.
But so for barely over $200, you could have a, assuming it stands up. We'll have to wait for somebody to beat the mess out of one of these things and see if it stands up to pistol mounting. But you could have a pistol set up for $200. $230.
Yeah, I think that'd be really nice, especially if you get like one of those like M&P, like Core.
Core, pistol. The new MOS by Glock. I'm trying to think if anybody else is doing that factory, but I know even if not, a lot of people are offering it as an aftermarket modification.
Well, we don't endorse Glock on this show. What are you talking about?
Don't let Nick hear you say that.
He already did. He's already typing the hate mail.
He'll come on here just to scold us. Somehow he got the link to this show, and he's about to hop on.
Yeah.
But anyways, to get back to what I was alluding to earlier, I did find in the manual they do have an auto brightness adjustment, so that ambient light sensor in the front, I think you hold the up button and it switches it to auto, and I guess it adjusts itself kind of like your phone. It adjusts to your ambient light, so it's not too bright in the dark, not too light, not too dark in the bright light kind of stuff.
Okay. I don't see anything on here about some kind of scope or some kind of cap for the lens. I'm assuming
the manual says comes with a protective cover. Remove cover when using or adjusting Venom red dot. Please note, installing the cover will shut the Venom off when in auto brightness mode, but it will not shut down in manual brightness mode. So it looks like it's got a feature. I guess it'll cover that light sensor enough to where it just shuts it off.
Nice.
So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, kind of like the Burris Fast Fire.
But it only does that in the auto mode. In manual mode, it'll stay on and shut off after the whatever you said it was, 8 hours or so.
Yeah, I really like that ability to change, because I've always wondered if you've got a red dot that only has that mode, and so to turn it off, you just put the cover on there, and obviously you cover up the sensor and it shuts itself off. How do you shoot the thing at night?
Yeah, I was kind of curious about that, because if you have it, yeah, like you said, how do you shoot it at night, which would be one added feature of having a red dot, to be able to shoot it at night.
Yeah, I really like this. I think that with the Redfield put out the micro red dot 2. I think that these two definitely would be good to compare between each other to see, for the lower price point, something that's lower than an RMR and a fast fire, is it?
Much slower than an RMR. It was about a
Oh,
third the cost.
heck yeah. I don't know. I'm really excited. I like this a lot. I like the design of it. I like that it's, not like a typical red dot, that the adjustment for the windage and elevation is kind of a slotted screw, but it's got white hash lines all the way around it that have kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like a lot longer dashes. So it gives you a nice point of reference for your adjustments. If you're changing it from your pistol to your AR-15, and that, obviously the difference in bore heights, you just got to move up or down a certain many of, I don't know if it clicks, but, dashes. It does click?
I'm pretty sure I saw it say click. So
Cool.
hopefully, it seems to be pretty standard. It seems like a lot of people are doing those clicks.
But I mean, I've had the red dots where you have to like loosen some set screws before you can even adjust it, and that's such a pain in the butt. So it's nice to have something that looks like it's much easier to operate.
Yeah. One thing it's good to note, I forget who did it, but one of the other companies, their red dot, I think they've remedied it since then, but their micro red dot like this, you had to remove from the firearm, from the mount, to get to the battery.
Yeah.
And this one's right on top, big old, like you said, it's got you could probably stick a dime in there, and and screw it right there. So it's like you don't really have to worry. One thing they don't really mention, but it's kind of curious, on the back of it, say you had it mounted on a pistol and you're looking down the sights, on the back of the sight there's 2 little white hash lines, and I'm kind of wondering if they're supposing that to use as like a backup, like a emergency backup sight or something. I'm not sure, because they're not raised or anything, but they're just 2 little white dashes. Do you see those, Ryan?
Yeah, it does look like that. So if you did not have I guess like a pistol that was I don't know, like slide cut low enough, or maybe you didn't have rear sight that was tall enough to look to co-witness and see over, you could use those 2 white lines as an index, as like your
That's
rear
somewhat
sight.
of a reference.
Yeah.
Imagine you could put your front sight in between those 2, and the front sight bead on top of it or something like that, and maybe give you a rough reference, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, if you shoot with both eyes open, you would see your eyes and would connect those 2 images in your brain, and so you'd kind of see those 2 white lines on either side of your front post.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So check that out, vortexoptics.com. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Vortex, especially their warranty on there is just phenomenal. I mean, if you do bash this thing, as long as they can tell what it was, they'll replace it for you.
Yeah, and I think that kind of almond shape you said earlier, rather than just a circle, it's more of like a shallower egg, I guess you could say. I think that's supposed to help dissipate like a blow. If you drop the rifle or pistol right on top of the gun, I think that shape is supposed to kind of dissipate some of that force, so maybe less likely to be broken.
Yeah, so it doesn't crack the lens or something like that.
Yeah, or as easily. I'm sure you could probably break them, but
yeah, very cool. I mean, it sounds like it'd be good at home on a shotgun, pistol, or some kind of carbine.
Yeah, anything really.
Put it on your Mosin Nagant.
Yeah, you could.
So that's it for the products this week. We do have some more listener feedback. In fact, this listener was a winner for the Gunstruction. I only had 3 to choose from, so the random generator didn't have to work too hard. James 1078 gave us a 5-star review. He said they provide good reviews and seem to be fairly well unbiased. Cast is good. Glad to see the listener participation. Audio quality could sometimes be better. That's a great feedback. I don't have a whole lot of control over all of my panelists' audio setups for recording, especially if they're brand new listener. So I try to have good audio on my end and just keep my fingers crossed and try and help people with making sure that they have good microphones. So I also want to make sure you guys know about the Firearms Radio Network EDC car giveaway that we are holding. So there's an EDC giveaway that's got kind of sweet prizes from Car Arms. They're throwing in a P9 pistol. Then you got Alien Gear holsters, key bar, Hellbent holsters, precision ear, easy to see targets, Canty Runner designs, Wazoo survival gear, and LA Police gear, all kind of sweetening the pot with some products. So all you have to do is be a patron of the one of our 4 Patreon campaigns. Firearms Radio Network has a Patreon that's monthly, where you can use a per episode patron of Gun Guy Radio, This Week in Guns, or We Like Shooting. If you do not want to give us your money, I understand. You can send a check to me. No, I'm just kidding. You can go to this firearmsradio.tv/EDC. Link is in the show notes. And if you scroll down, there's kind of a form on that page where you can give us your name, email, phone number, and kind of a testimonial on how any of the programs on the Firearms Radio Network has affected your life. Whether this show caused you to buy too much gear and caused your divorce, I don't know. But you can use code names if you want to omit personal information, but just give us your story, and that'll give you an entry to win also. So it's running till June 30th. Make sure you sign up for that. Who doesn't love free stuff?
Especially free good stuff. I have a car myself, and I really enjoy it. Not this particular model, but similar.
Yeah, cars are really nice pistols. I remember before I bought my Glock 19, I'd go to, in Tacoma, they had an indoor shooting range where you could rent pistols. And the best pistols to rent, because they had a very lousy selection, and those guns are on their last leg. But the car, I think it was a T9 and the Glock 19 were like the best pistols by bar none. But I got the Glock 19, obviously. But I still remember that car was really nice with the stainless and the wood grips. I think that's the T9. Is that something else?
I'm not entirely sure with the all metal guns. They kind of lose me. They have a polymer line and they have a steel line, and I think it might be a T9, something like that. Yeah.
So anyway, make sure you check that out. Make sure you send questions or comments or feedback to podcast@firearmsinsider.tv or cross@firearmsradio.tv. We'd love to hear from you. Tell me how awesome I'm doing, or tell me how much I suck. It doesn't matter either way. I'd love to hear from you. Remember to subscribe and leave us an iTunes review. Check out all the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network at firearmsradio.tv/iTunes, and be sure to visit the Firearms Insider website for reviews and industry coverage. So thanks for joining me, TJ. It was always nice to have you on. Good talking to you.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Ryan. It is always good talking to you as well.
Yeah. And I look forward to next week's episode. And everyone have a good week. Shoot safe if you do go shooting. And I will catch you on the next episode.
All right. See you, Ryan.